where we are able to work with the national and the county governments. And for the county governments that have engaged with us, we use these mandates to work with your teams in policy design, formulation, and also monitoring. The last one is on dissemination and policy dialogue. This function is one of the functions that bring us here. And we know every year we hold our conferences, but every year we must participate in the devolution conference because as KIPRA, we have walked the journey of devolution. We have a lot of evidence that is supporting counties, and we at this point in time appreciate the support we are getting from the national government and also the county governments that support us to support devolution as we disseminate and dialogue in policy matters. These are the various studies we have done over time, and these studies relate to county governments, we have worked on various studies. The first one is on Public Affairs Index. This is an index that monitors the achievements in the delivery of public services across counties. It has the following pillars: fiscal management, economic management, human capital development, essential infrastructure, environmental management, transparency, accountability, justice, water, among others. And when we look at the theme under devolution this year, this is an area where we are able to inform equity, inclusion, and social justice because the indicators we measured are able under the devolution at 10, these are the recommendations we make from the studies. First is to strengthen checks, balances, and public participation, to improve protection of minorities and inclusive development across regions, ensuring that no one is left behind, enhancing service delivery in social and economic development. Under the labor productivity index, that is the next index. This index measures the productivity of all the 47 counties in agriculture, industry, and services. The findings that we have as an institute resonates quite well with enhancing equity and inclusion. And here we are looking at drivers of shared prosperity, which include devolved investments in human capital. And right along as we go through the presentations, you'll find that as a government And as counties, we need to invest a lot in human capital because that is a resource that we have as a nation, whereby over 75% of our population is aged 35 years and below. Another area is investing in infrastructure, inclusive services, devolution, where we have opportunities distributed equitably, and also areas of social justice. If you look at the chart we have in front of us, I've taken it to our provisions to ensure that we are able to divide counties and see how each county is performing. We have the arid counties, the semi-arid counties, and also the non-arid counties. Why do we do this as KIPRA? We do this because we know when we devolved functions, counties were at different levels. And through the cassette notice on hazard lands, we know that arid and semi-arid lands face different challenges. Some of these challenges relate to shocks to do with climate change. We have counties which have low levels of manufacturing. We also have counties where we make as an institute to ask that as we implement devolution, how can we make sure that counties do not concentrate in service delivery at the national level, but then we go all the way up to the ward level. And this is a provision that is quite important when it comes to supporting the arid and semi-arid lands and also in agriculture. Another study which is important is the county business environment for micro and small enterprises. This study is to do with enabling environment for business. We have 47 county briefs for all these studies, and I encourage all the counties to go through our repository to make sure that we are able to see the evidence that the Institute has developed. Another study is on the FinTech Index. The FinTech Index has the following pillars: technology, infrastructure, digital financial services, socioeconomic status, social networks, and communication channels. This study, when we did it, we were able to break down the various counties and how we are doing in terms of financial technology uptake. And what we find is that as a nation, we are doing much far better than our neighbors, but we have internal disparities. And these disparities cut across the counties. The counties which are under arid and semi-arid lands, they have lower levels of fintech access compared to the non-ASAL counties, which again gives us an opportunity as a nation to ensure that we expand financial technology access. And this can be done through continual deepening of mobile banking, supporting the digital payments, ensuring that our fintech platforms and also are well sustained, investing in which can be done through the public-private partnerships, and also introducing subsidies. The next index which we have worked on is on County Climate Change Readiness Index. This is of our readiness to shocks, and it has various pillars, including the following. The first one is policy. We have governance. We also have the indicator on infrastructure, monitoring and evaluation, partnerships, adaptation, and mitigation. This particular index that we have computed and produced for 7 briefs measures the level of preparedness when it comes to climate change. And when we did this, we were able to go to all the 47 counties, and we have measured the level of climate change preparedness and used it to inform policy, particularly in areas of strengthening, which include strengthening the climate change policies, prioritizing climate resilience infrastructure, and also enhancing monitoring and risk management systems. The last set of work we have done at county level is county youth briefs. The county youth briefs were an outcome of work we did on the review of youth employment programs in Kenya. We reviewed the youth employment programs at the national level and across all the 47 counties. What we find in these policy briefs, which are also in our repository, is the provision that, yes, we have interventions, but most youth do not know about those interventions. And the take home from this work on youth employment is to ensure that the information we have about youth employment initiatives is availed not only in the physical spaces, but also in the virtual spaces. We also have the county nutrition briefs. These have 6 pillars. The first one being health, agriculture is the second one. Then we have water and sanitation, education, social protection, and environment. These briefs went further to give us the index across all the 47 counties in terms of nutrition. And what we find in terms of the overall nutrition index is that we have variations. We have counties where our nutrition index is below 30%. What does that mean? It means as counties, we need to invest more in human capital development, which starts from nutrition. In the next slide, what we have is a provision of the nutritious plate of an example of a county. In this work, when we did it, and we were supported by the EU, we were able to work closely with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics to go through all the meals that we take across the counties. We have a compendium of over 3,000 meals. We broke this by age group because the nutrient consumption of an individual varies from the young people to the older persons, but we did it for the 0 to 3, and then 4 to 5, and then 6 to 13, then 14 to 17 years. But generally what we have here is an example of a nutritious plate for Homa Bay County, and also we have this for all the 47 counties. For the Homa Bay County, we can see we can mix the carbohydrates, the proteins. We also have vegetables, fruits, and dairy products. And this is very important because this is work we are also championing across the school meals program because it has informed the policy provision in the school feeding program. With that, participants, this is the link we have for all our documents, the KIPRA Public Policy Repository. That is our master link, and you can go deeper to that and get all the policy briefs that we have, right from the Public Affairs Index, the CPEM, the Devolution at 10, County Youth Briefs, and Nutrition Policy Briefs. This is an important resource for all of us, and with that, I want to hand it over to our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's appreciate the Acting Executive Director, Dr. Eldon Somu. Thank you very much for your welcoming remarks and taking us through what KIPRA has been able to develop in terms of output touching on county specific. At this point, I want to, and apologies, our distinguished guests will be making presentations. We were not able to have a podium, but we want to apologize for that. But I think this team can be able to bring me this table up here very quickly, Halon and the team, so that we are able to praise the speeches of our guest. Maybe three gentlemen who are very quick, like a Tiwa in your team, very fast. Thank you very much. Apologies for a lack of podium. Abdi Fatah, join the team very fast. Director is okay. The team will be able to handle that. Shongwa, kindly assist so that they don't go down with this table. Thank you very much, and apologies for that. At this point, I want to bring the chairperson of the KIPRA Board of Directors, Professor Paul Washana, to give us his opening remarks. Let's appreciate the KIPRA Board chairperson as he comes to give us his opening remarks. Karibu sana, Prof.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karancha. You know me, I'm tall enough. Even the table doesn't help me. So I'll still suffer. So I think the guys who organize next time when we encounter this, take some corrective measures. Other than that, here is my remarks. Purely what you've seen from our acting ED, Dr. Osomo, has been technical. But mine is more about laughing a little bit, making some asks, especially when I see the peers and the governor, and be able to commend them for some of the good things they are doing. Because of that political angle, technical and political angle. So, thank you. So, the Principal Secretary, State Department of Economic Planning, Dr. Boniface Makoha, Governor, County Government of Barinko, His Excellency Benjamin Chesire Cheboy, Dr. Elta Osomo, the Acting Executive Director, KIPRA, Dr. McDonald Obuto, Director General KNBS, National Government officials present, County government officials present, development partners in the House, civil society representatives, KIPRA staff, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. I know it's late. This is not in my speech, but I want to take this opportunity to ask directors, Board of Directors, KIPRA, to stand up and be seen. I'll quickly introduce them. From my right is KIPRA Board Vice Chair, Dr. Christine, followed by Director Mukayaki Monique, representative of National Treasury, Daktari Njete, Wanyama Indeji, followed by former PS Director Joseph Musuni, who's also the chair of Audit Committee, followed by Rupen, Director, a guy representing Solicitor General, then, Rupen Ekai, Inspectorate. Then I call him the Vice Chancellor, Professor Koech Kibet. Then on the far left is our acting executive director, who's also the board secretary, Dr. Elta Ozano. Can be seated. This is the problem of sitting behind. The most powerful and my colleague, the only board that enjoys institutional memory Chair Emeritus, Professor Peter Ateng is there. He comes from Homa Bay. Okay. Then there's the representative of the PS State Department, senior economist, our boss, alternate PS, Timothy Kaku. Then PS State Representative Alois Rotemo. Thank you. Next time I'll be looking behind, but also be sitting in front next time. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense joy to welcome you all to what is truly a signature event in our Kipra calendar. That's the Devolution Conference 2025 side event. This is a platform where policy meets purpose, where evidence-driven insights engage with bold ideas, and where the future of inclusive governance begins to take shape. I appreciate your presence and participation in today's event. Ladies and gentlemen, our session themed Advancing Social Equity, Inclusion, and Justice through Public Participation is both timely and central to Kenya's devolution journey. At Kipra, we remain committed to conducting evidence-based research that strengthens public participation frameworks at both national and county levels. We are in a new era of public policy making, one that demands meaningful citizen engagement and inclusivity in shaping a progressive development path. County governments continue to play a pivotal role by developing and implementing key policy instruments such as annual development plans, budgets, fiscal strategy papers, and medium-term expenditure frameworks. Counties are currently rolling out the third generation county integrated development plans, popularly known as CIDBs, for the 2023-24 to 2027-28 period, which are guiding development priorities over the next 5 years. At Kipra, we are proud to contribute to this journey through policy research, analysis, and capacity building. We support counties in making informed, inclusive, and sustainable decisions. In this regard, we are scaling up our strategic initiatives to empower county governments. One such initiative is the expansion of our Young Professionals Program, popularly known as YP, which is a cornerstone of our capacity building efforts. We have increased the intake to 30 sponsored participants, and we are keen to expand our county participation. Our goal by 2028 is to double the number of county staff to be enrolled in this YP program. To make training more accessible and flexible, especially for the county staff, we are developing an e-learning platform for the YP program and other capacity building programs offered at Kipra. This will enable learners to access training remotely and reduce barriers to participation. Ladies and gentlemen, Kipra is scaling up the production of county-specific research reports annually. In addition, we are working on establishing a regularly updated county data repository to ensure access to timely and relevant information for public policy formulation, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation, plus learning. Kipra plans to establish a Center for Gender and Special Groups and enhance our gender data repository This will support more inclusive and responsive policy planning and implementation. This year alone, we aim to establish an economic modeling hub to support national and county level economic analysis. We are also developing a county revenue analysis tool, which will provide counties with better insights into their revenue streams and financial planning. Distinguished guests, to build sustainable networks, we are increasing the number of strategic partnerships and expanding our engagement with counties by offering advisory and technical support. We aim to share at least 4 policy tools annually with ministries, counties, departments, and agencies to strengthen service delivery. To enhance productivity through human capacity development and improved staff welfare, KIPRA is committed to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion. We hope that by 2028, we aim to increase the proportion of staff who are persons with disabilities, achieve gender balance, and raise the representation of the face of Kenya in our workforce to ensure equitable regional and ethnic inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, governments need to invest in research by allocating adequate human and financial resources, identifying priority policy areas, and actively engaging with KIPRA's research findings. We also encourage counties to provide feedback on our work, which is essential in enhancing the relevance and impact our policy advisory services. This two-way engagement is critical to ensuring that policy formulation is informed by grassroots voices, ultimately promoting equity and justice in the service delivery. As we reflect on this theme, let us remember that equity, inclusion, and justice can only be realized when all citizens, regardless of gender, age, ability, or geographical location, have a voice in the decisions that shape their lives. KIPRA remains steadfast in its commitment to supporting evidence-based policies that empower people and strengthen devolution. As I conclude, I urge all of us to participate actively in this event. I look forward to learning more from our panelists and audience present here. Before I conclude, I want to take this opportunity to thank our peers, Dr. Boniface Makoha, who has made it possible for KIPRA to realize what, especially the KIPRA board, what has been elusive for many years. As we talk, we officially received communication about no objection on matters KIPRA land. Makofi kwa PS. Second, on the same good note, the PS was able to, through its negotiations, KIPRA has been listed to collaborate in developing the Center of Excellence with PPP, Place of Treasury. Asante sana, Bwana PS. But on the same note, Bwana PS, even if we are visitors here, I want to make quick 2 asks. The first one, we are very proud and excited that at Homa Bay, the president started setting up affordable housing for colleges and training institutions, research institutions, okay, and what? TFETs. Our request that through your networks, KIPRA be considered now that we're going to have the land so that we can get accommodation established at that land and those hostels. Second, to improve Kipra feasibility when appears. You know what we've seen? The State Department of Planning also does research. I would want to request that all research activities at State Department be transferred to Kipra so that administration work relating to matters Kipra, we can retain Kipra desk in the treasury where you are. We don't want to be in a competition with our parent ministry. With those few remarks, allow me to invite my friend, the PS of State Department for Economic Plan, Dr. Boniface Makoha, to come and give his remarks. Asante sana. Thank you so much. Again, as you come, remember our asks.
Asante sana, Professor. The asks. Governor, County Government of Baringo, His Excellency Benjamin Chesire Cheboy, County Governors present, County Government staff present, senior government officials present, Kipra Board Chair, Professor Paul Wachana, I've not forgotten the asks, Kipra Board members present, Kipra Acting Executive Director, Daktari Elda Onsomo, KNBS Director General, Dr. MacDonald Obudho, development partners present, civil societies representatives present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's good afternoon or good evening. Yeah, it really gives me a great pleasure and privilege to join you here today at this very important side event. Yeah, that we have christened Advancing Social Equity, Inclusion, and Justice through Public Participation. We're looking at the strategic role of effective county governance. This is a very side event that is hosted here by Kipra, Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis. We are very happy, especially as the lead at the State Department, that as we gather today here, we are reflecting on our shared journey in strengthening public participation. Yeah, as a way of advancing social equity, inclusion, and justice in the context of devolution. Probably I'll throw in quick questions. What is equity? What is inclusivity? What is social justice? Sometimes probably we are looking at this and we are not contextualizing exactly what these terms mean. But I believe when I look at the objectives of the discussion, by the end of this, we will be able to assess the effectiveness of the current framework and practices of public participation in county government. I believe the beginning will be for us to really understand and contextualize these three terminologies that we're using. Ladies and gentlemen, as you're aware, this State Department and Daktari Acting ED indicated that we have a mandate that is given by the President through the executive order. The recent one, which is Executive Order number 1 of 2025, so many functions. Among them is to undertake national and sectoral development planning. This is a fundamental principle of development planning. Therefore, this requires public participation, which is, from where we sit, the involvement of all those affected people by the decisions that we make. I want to also remind us that even as we do this as a state department, apart from the executive order, we also have this entrenched in the law. And the law requires that effective public participation, it should be as a cornerstone of our democratic governance. And we should have people-centered development as enshrined in Articles 10 of our Constitution, Articles 118 of the Constitution, and even the County Government Act of 2012. Therefore, while we are developing policies as a state department, developing plans, strategies, we are very keen at ensuring that this is observed, what has been stipulated in the law. Public participation is undertaken, not only as a constitutional right or requirement, but as a way of, number one, empowering citizens, generating new ideas, and enhancing citizen-government relationship, legitimizing government programs, and appropriately prioritizing projects, as well as helping us to improve public service delivery. One of the questions or the objectives that I've seen is sharing some of the best practices on public participation. I want to give an example that in line with the Constitution articles that I've quoted, Article 10, mainly the section 2A, 2C, and Article 174C, the State Department undertook a process of developing fourth medium-term plan, which was done through wide stakeholder engagement. And the consultation were undertaken within the MTP4 sector working groups, the National Steering Committee, the National Stakeholder Forum, and even county consultation in all the 47 counties. The county consultation forums, these were undertaken in March 2022, which provided an invaluable opportunity for stakeholders and the general public to share their views, which formed a foundation for designing sector policies as well as programs and projects for MTP4. I was highlighting that just to showcase the best practice of public participation that we undertook to have a document that is guiding us all our programs and plans, that we did it through the public participation with the support of all the 47 counties. And to all the governors, through the governor present of Baringo, thank you for your support. And the national government, we are very keen to working together with the counties. Further to that, so that to ensure that the county integrated development plans are aligned with the national priorities, the State Department also goes ahead to issue guidelines. Apart from issuing guidelines of developing the CIDPs, it also goes ahead to hold sensitization forums so that it provides technical support to the county government while preparing the CIDPs. And these guidelines are very specific elaborate and specific on matters of public participation, inclusivity, and equity. Therefore, this process is grounded on very strong principle of public participation. In our commitment as a State Department and as a government as a whole to transparency in physical planning, the National Treasury also conducted nationwide consultation for the 2025-2027 medium-term debt strategy. The process ensured that citizens are informed and involved in shaping decisions on public borrowing and debt sustainability. Further, the State Department of Devolution and the Council of Governors have also developed very sector-specific guidelines to ensure meaningful citizen involvement. Emphasis being placed on inclusion of the youth, women, persons with disability, and minor groups, recognizing the true democracy thrives, recognizing that true democracy thrives when every opinion is heard. These are just examples of good practices as we look at both the government, national government level, and even at the county, and the collaboration of the two. Ladies and gentlemen, KIPRA, which is an agency under the State Department, has expanded opportunities, as we've heard from the chair and AD, for public input to public policy making processes and implementation through digital platforms, and even taking it down to ward level for community forums, while at the same time working with the KNBS, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, to strengthen data systems that support evidence-based planning across all levels of government. This State Department is in the process of developing Kenya Economic Planning Policy and Bill, which will provide broader framework for economic planning within Kenya, both at national and subnational level. And our emphasis is that it has to start from the ward level governor. So when it comes, key in this policy is the three key terminologies that we are looking at: the equity, inclusivity, and the social justice. And this will require participation of all of us, including those in government and even the citizens. These efforts reflect that this government, led by His Excellency the President, Dr. William Ruto, has given unwavering commitment to institutionalizing participatory governance that is inclusive, transparent, and citizen-centered. Together, let us build a nation where every voice matters, where every citizen has a stake in our shared future. Let us continue to work together, both at national and county level, bringing on board the civil society, the private sector, and the public at large to make public participation not just a requirement, but a culture that drives justice and transformative change for Kenya. Before I say thank you, there were asks from KIPRA. If I sit without responding to that, I know the chair, who is speaking on behalf of the ED, asked a few things. Number one, he asked about setting up accommodation. I want also to take this opportunity, just before I respond to that, to appreciate the Kipra board. Thank you so very much for your commitment to ensure that we get the land that now belongs to Kipra. It has not been easy. I looked at the journey was almost 10 years, but by the grace of God, we now have the land. We have no objection. It is important, and it is in order for you to think of establishing accommodation. I want to give my word that that is the way to go, with one reason. Currently, you pay rent. In total, I think annual rent is about 40 million. 40 million, Governor, pardon me, and distinguished guests, where the space I was in, that is what it informs my thinking. 40 million. If we can take that and start putting up a foundation, and then as a state government, let us look for money. We give you a seed money, and then you continue. When you have finished building, the allocation we give you as rent, we don't stop it. So we now start recovering. But we will be able to look into that. It is the way to go. Number two, as a State Department, it would be very unfortunate for us to be seen competing with the agencies that we are supposed to facilitate so that they do their work. That one has been noted, and action will be taken so that we do not compete. Having said that, the State Department also demands that all agencies have to recognize that the State Department is the mother and should not be at competition. If we come in, we are coming in to facilitate. Probably, if there are issues that are brought up about such a scenario, we will be able to address. With those so many remarks, I just want to end there and encourage all of us as we enter into the session of discussion after the governor. Please let us be very bold, deliberate, and open with the discussions that we undertake here. With those so many remarks, you want to snatch me an opportunity to invite the governor? Okay. With those so many remarks, put your hands together as I bring over His Excellency, the Governor of Baringo, His Excellency Benjamin Chesire Cheboy. Karibu sana Bwana Governor. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Bwana PS. The PS, Dr. Boniface Makoha, Principal Secretary, State Department of Economic Planning, Professor Paul Washana, Kipra Board Chairperson, Dr. Elder Onsamu, Kipra Acting Executive Director, Dr. McDonald Obudo, is he there? KNBS Director General, county government officials present, national government officials present, development partners, civil societies representatives, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, or is it good evening? Can I request that we stand up a bit so that we can be a little bit fresher, and then we raise our hands 1 second. I think I used to be a teacher one time. That will help us. Right, thank you. You can sit, we may be seated. I am deeply honored to join in this side event hosted by Kipra at the 9th Devolution Conference 2025 to address this critical dialogue on public participation as a bedrock for inclusive county governance. I commend KIPRA for convening this timely session focused on advancing social equity, inclusion, and justice through public participation. This theme that lies at the heart of our devolved governance system. The main theme of the conference for the people, for prosperity. Devolution as a catalyst for equity, inclusion, and social justice. This resonates deeply with our shared constitutional mandate and Baringo County's decade-long journey in operationalizing participatory development, participatory democracy through legislative frameworks that are responsive and inclusive and truly serve our people. And for the avoidance of doubt, we have been partners with KIPRA in our activities in Baringo County. We're really proud of you. Why? Because they say in the good book that for the lack of knowledge, my people perish. KIPRA is about knowledge. KIPRA is about policy analysis. It's about research. It's about information. And that is so very important. So we have worked the journey together with KIPRA and the civil society. 10 years ago, in September 2015, Baringo County became one of the pioneer counties to enact comprehensive public participation legislation. Our Public Participation Act 2015 was not merely a legal requirement, it was our commitment to transforming the constitutional vision into live reality for our communities. This act established our Department of Publicity and Public Participation, created structured forums from county to village levels, and institutionalized citizen engagement as the cornerstone of our governance model. Baringo County has shown its commitment to inclusive governance through regular public budget forums, such as those held at Cabernet Park, where citizens engage directly with the members of the county assemblies on budget matters and service delivery issues. The county has also adopted a citizen participation framework to guide project prioritization and promote transparency. Many times we think that the public don't know what they want. But to be sincere, the public will decide and say, this is what we want. They may not know priorities. What is economically important? Though sometimes they have sectarian issues where they say, this year we want to do ABCD in place, X, which may not necessarily be contributing to much economic development, but they know what they want. Of course, there is a little need for education of the public on how to engage in public participation. Additionally, by publishing all 10 key budget documents online, Baringo has improved public access to fiscal information. You cannot do public participation and not indicate to the public what has been decided. So we publish this in the public portal, in our websites, so that you can know what is happening to your village or your ward this year, what has been decided. And you can therefore hold the county accountable to that. Baringo has improved public access to fiscal information. These efforts reflect the county's dedication to making public participation central to its governance. But personally, I can tell you there are certain things, again, sometimes when you go for public participation, it makes decision making very difficult. I'll give you an example that we had the other day. We needed to build a sewage system in one of our towns. And when you go to the public, because you must tell them that we want to build a sewage system. Yani tunataka kupeleka yale machafu kutoka town upeleke on the periphery of the town. Who will accept for you to dump waste and sewage in their neighborhood? They start seeing it as if unaleta uchafu. Even though you are going to make sure that it is going to be treated, it was a very difficult process. So sometimes you want to do public participation, but there must be some sort of guidance or directions to educate them that this has what benefits that you can do. KIPRA has continued to conduct research on a wide range of issues and also offers capacity building for county officers. As Baringo County, we look forward to strengthening our collaboration under the existing MOU by ensuring active participation in joint studies. I told you earlier on that we have got an MOU with KIPRA. And I think we perhaps are one of the few counties that have got an MOU. Why? It is very difficult or impossible to do policies without information. And you know, for your information, before we draft any legislation to forward to the county assembly to legislate on, we must be able to do a proper analysis. So our relationship with KIPRA is good in the sense that we will collect data and information and subject it to analysis before we make those policy decisions. I know there are some policy decisions that we make without necessarily doing any research. Especially as politicians, when you go to the public out there, you listen to them. Eventually they say, Governor, tunataka ufanye hizi, utufanyie hii na utufanyie hii. So as a politician, you make a decision there and say, next year we are going to build an ECD classroom here. You know? And yet there is a policy that is supposed to inform the location of ECD centers. Or there should be a policy that should inform that decision. Sometimes politics takes the better side of us. For example, when one village has got a dispensary and another one does not have a dispensary, the members of that village can take a delegation to see the governor or to see their MP and say, sisi tunataka dispensary yetu. And perhaps you have a policy, like now there is a policy that says you can only do a dispensary in a place where there are 5,000 people, the population, or a distance of 5 kilometers from the point that you are to the next dispensary. What do? If you do it, then you are damned because it's going to cost you more in terms of human resource, and yet the facilities are there. If you don't do it, it's going to cost you a political seat. So that is the challenge of public policy. On the other hand, you can be in a place where there is no dispensary at all. There are very few people in an area of more than 5 square kilometers or 10 square kilometers. The population is less than 5,000. And yet, you cannot do it because the population is low. But the distance also to the next public health facility is even, you cannot think about it. So sometimes you have got to make certain decisions outside that policy because of convenience to the public users there. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this forum offers a timely opportunity to reflect, learn, and chart a bold path forward in deepening public participation. The true success of devolution will not be measured solely by infrastructure we build, but by how well we democratize decision making and empower citizens across all levels. Yes, the politicians would like to have a physical infrastructure so that when they go and campaign, they say, niliwajengea kitu fulani. And perhaps yet the wananchi are saying, we would like you to buy for us pumps, water pumps, so that we can irrigate our land. You know, two different ideologies. Or they will say that our youth require to be bought motorcycles. And perhaps government policy does not allow such thing to happen. So you have got to go around and make sure that you have got a system that will allow you to do those kind of things. Let us adopt county-specific strategies, allocate resources for civic engagement, and strengthen partnerships with civil society, the private sector, and institutions that are responsible for public policy like KIPRA in advancing social equity, inclusion, and justice through public participation. There is one thing that did not happen after the 2010 Constitution. The government was supposed to do public or civic education on the workings of the new constitutions. This did not happen. And perhaps this should have happened before doing the things that we did as a county. In fact, the education of the public on how to engage in public participation should have been the first item that the government should have done, but it didn't happen. But I think all counties, or most of the counties, have created departments of civic education so that they can create structures for educating the public on how to engage in public participation. But even then, when it does happen, sometimes the public participation is done by a few elite individuals who have got specific and personal interest for the budgeting process to happen the way they want. So I think there is still need to continuously engage in civic education on the need to do public participation. Baringo County stands ready to be part of this transformation and remains firmly committed to fostering participatory governance and making public participation a lived reality, advancing equity, inclusion, and social justice for Kenyans. Let me say this. One of the key pillars that has supported Baringo County in public participation is the civil society organizations. We have developed a system of having a roundtable conference between the county executive and the civil society organizations on a regular basis. We engage on how we both can participate in civic education and public participation. We also hold town hall meetings on a regular basis to engage wananchi on what we should do. The latest being a decision by us to change a public housing area to a commercial housing area. You know, when we realized that Cabernet municipality is growing and there was public housing in the middle of town, we had to engage the wananchi and say, now we need to change this housing from the single dwelling units, small single dwelling units, which were earning an income to the county government, to high-rise buildings so that it can accommodate the development that is required in the county. And that was it. We had to do public participation. Even as recently as the other day, we had a public participation forum to convince the residents of a place where there is a university, a teacher training college, that we need to relocate the teacher training college so that we can accommodate a university in that teacher training college as a basis of expanding the university. And we had to do public participation. Sometimes when you don't do public participation, people take you to court. The awareness of citizens now is very high that you make a decision, you will be taken to court. Indeed, even if we had done public participation for that issue of the college being relocated, we were still taken to court by the public or by users of that institution. So Kenyans, and particularly people from Baringo County, are very much aware of the right to public participation. You cannot make a decision without their discussion. Although, of course, they have got elected representatives whom we can assume sometimes that they represent the people. As we participate in this event, let us be inspired to enhance our frameworks, engage citizens meaningfully, and promote inclusive development. Through collaboration, accountability, and shared commitment, we can make participatory governance the norm and ensure that devolution truly works for the people and for prosperity. I therefore now take this opportunity, this singular opportunity, to declare this said event officially open. And I thank you. And I really appreciate your kindness in welcoming me to be part of this very, very important event. And I do hope that we can engage openly so that we can see how we can add value to public participation in county governments and the nation at large. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Let's appreciate again our governor. Thank you very much for the opening, for your speech, and also officially opening this side event. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I want to switch into presentations, and I want to invite Dr. Joab Odhiambo from Kipra to make a presentation on the status of public participation. Dr. Joab Odhiambo.
Thank you very much. Morning, good evening. Allow me to ride on the existing protocol that had been stated. First of all, I would like to make a correction. If you look at the schedule that we have, it's Dr. Nancy Nafula who is supposed to present. But because today we are in the county and I'm the son of the soil, okay? I think they have given me the favor to also present it on behalf of the Institute. Now, I'm very happy because, okay, thank you very much. I'm very happy because this issue of public participation has been discussed extensively here, right from the governor. I'm very happy to see you and the peers and all we're talking about with the aim of the theme of the conference today. So we look at status of the public participation as a research institute, as Kipra. What have we done? Now, to start on that, I want to give you a small introduction, and I think this has been elaborately from the governor to the PS on why public participation is very important from the 2010 Constitution. And there are three key issues that we want to look at there in terms of the transparency, accountability, and inclusivity. And this rhymes well with the theme of today's conference. Now, there is also an issue of essential effective budgeting for both national and country levels. And why is this important is because, it has rightly been said by the governor and people who have spoken before, that this is important because the people, the sovereignty starts with the people. So you have to tell people are the ones telling you what to do as a leader. Now, despite all this, there are some constitutional provisions that have been given. We still face issues on how to implement this. And that's why the constitutional framework, remember as an Institute of Kipra, we operate under what? Strict adherence to the constitutions. And of course, there are some articles of the Constitution, at least some of this has been even Article 1 with about sovereignty and etc. Look at the direct exercise of power. Now, public participation is a constitutional requirement that ensure that citizens' meaningful engagement at both counties and national levels are engaged in the decision-making process and affairs. There is also Article 174, that establishes the objects of the devolution. I think that has been rightly put. And then there is also giving, there is objective that gives powers of self-governance and to the people enhancing participation. Now, I want us to go straight away to, of course, the county government has been talked about, the PFM Act has been talked about, and of course, the Urban and Cities Act of 2011 that gives citizens forums and community engagement. Now, this has been talked about to just give us the legal and policy framework. Why do we do public participation? Now, my work here is now to come into KIPRA. What are some of the research that we've done in issues to do with public participation? And as I was sitting there, my boss, ED, had already talked about some of the indices. So I just want to continue with the same spirit to highlight members of the public on some of the research that we've done as an institute when it comes to issues of public participation. Now, some of these documents, as was rightly put, just to reiterate, they are available in our repository. So you can always go there and get them. Now, these are some of the 4 KIPRA policy studies that we did recently, with the latest one being strengthening. How do you strengthen public participation for effective budgeting process, which I was a part of. There's also Public Affairs Index. You can also find that document. We also looked at the devolution at 10 years and the object of public participation. And then there's Public Affairs Index of 2022 that look at what are some of the key pillars of public participation. So this research that is done at the Institute really brings the importance of KIPRA in terms of guiding on issues to do with policy as an institute. And I'm happy our PS is here. So we look at some of the methodology because I sit at the office of the executive director, but I'm a researcher, okay? So we look at, it's always important to, because we talked about KIPRA is evidenced, and I'm rightly put as one of the recommendations from this, that all the agencies, whether the KNBS or the work is to collect for us data, then we now write policies based on that evidence. So data was collected because for us to do a public policy, you have to collect evidence. And that evidence was collected from the 47 counties. And some of them we collected them from secondary data, mostly from KNBS that we collected it. Then we developed these indices. Okay, that's why you talk about the Public Affairs Index. Okay, that will tell us the status. Where do we, as a county, or different counties at the national level? Now, based on these indices, we were able to measure these public participation indices that we have. Now, so we first look at the first paper. I was looking at the benefits of public participation on effective budgeting process. And we look at the 3 key components or pillars of public participation. The first one is transparency. Now, what did we measure in transparency? What we measured, we look at independent oversight audit report. And these reports, we always get them from the Auditor General, okay? We looked in awareness. What did we measure? We measured the civil education training barassos. And remember, some of these things is done. The data set there is what we call key informant interviews, where you go and get somebody in the county, then you ask them. Okay? Data sets also is key informants. In accessibility, we looked at timely dissemination, and I'm very happy the governor was here, talked about how do you disseminate information through websites and etc. Affordability. Remember, Governor has talked about a topic that I'm always writing a book on it. What is a thin line between policy and politics, where you have to balance on your survival and follow a policy. So it's something that I'm thinking probably to write a book on that. It can be very interesting. Affordability. There is geographical reach. Baringo County is a very elaborate, okay? Sometimes, how do you do effective public participation to ensure that somebody from Tiati, okay? You know, people from down here, Baringo, Mogotio, Tiati, Baringo Central, Baringo Roads are all involved in the process of public participation. It has to do with things with the geographical reach. Then it has to do with the language accommodation. This is a common problem, especially in counties where there is what we call metropolitan. How do you disseminate? I don't know whether Baringo is it's also metropolitan. Yes, so how do you disseminate public participation to ensure that everybody in that Baringo is able to understand it? Considering people from Tiati probably might not, if you have got different dialects. So that is kind of an issue. So this is how we measured all these three. And there is also another paper on the Public Affairs Index. How did we measure? We looked at existence of county-specific public participation policy. I'm happy the governor has talked about the 2015 public population policy that you enacted, okay? So we looked at it, regulations and guidelines, and public participation best practices. We also looked at what did we look at? Providing timely information. How do you give feedback? How do you involve public process, inclusion of all, facilitation of public through budgeting, incorporation of public views. So all these were done through key informant interviews. Now, once we did that, we also looked at the devolution. Remember the three papers, look at the devolution, how we measured devolution at 10. There was public participation noticed on websites, and I'm very sure we'll look at some of the results that we had here. Transparency in announcing citizen engagement opportunities. Now, as we are aware, we are coupling with the Gen Zs, people who are more social. So probably they don't listen to radios or TV, they are more social. So we looked at that. Then we look at public participation report published on county website, accountability through sharing of outcomes of public participation. So that was very important. Now, I will just give you a brief prospect on what are the results. However, the key findings of county-specific, you can go to our repository and as a county, you read your own county, okay? So these are some just the general. On average, we looked at the national average was around 47.65%. The transparency index was around 54, accessibility index was around 43.1, and then awareness was around 50.5. Performance remains below average across all indicators. So that is a key component that can be looked at, and county-specific can look at how do they enhance some of these indices to make them improve bigger. So we looked at some of these in terms of the performance of all these indices. So for example, in the county, the overall, I think Nairobi was the best, followed by this. That doesn't mean others did poorly. You can go to the specific document and read where the county is and what are the measures that we used. Now, in terms of accessibility, there was Nandi County that topped. Migori was around, was 65.4. Migori was 65. Kisii was 65. Then in terms of the awareness, remember we looked at how did you measure awareness performance. Nairobi was the highest. Then there was a very key findings from this when you look at inclusivity performance, and this was noted from the marginalized groups were always were always excluded from the decision-making process. So that is a key recommendation from the reports that you can look at, especially if you come from a county where there is a marginalized group, then you can see how you can able to address that. Now, we look at the status in terms of the public participation analysis. We looked at 47 counties. On average, the score was around 70%, which is quite good, okay? Then the most important thing, which we should be happy about, if you look at the base study that we did in 2012, there was an increase of around 2%. So means counties were coming up. So we look at also in terms of the best practices to see how we measured up. there was some sad news that there was a decrease from around 96% to 77%. Regulatory framework score, we increased from very good performance, we increased from 38% to 61%. Now, the key elements was how information was being shared. So the point that we noted, while counties are strengthening their public participation regulatory framework, the problem is the actual implementation of the best practices, which you have there, has significantly declined, indicating a gap between policy and practice. And I think the governor, you noted it very well, where you have to balance between policy, what you read it, and the practice. The practice now, I want to replace it in bracket politics, okay? Yes. So that is something that we have to look into, and it's a work in progress, and we want to see how it works. Now, in terms of the public regulatory framework, I think the average score increased very massively from 38% to 61%. Now, in over 24 counties were above average, so that means we are doing very well. And then the best county from here was McQueen County, and of course, it increased from almost all the parameters of indicators were 100%. Now, what did we note from this? That counties are strengthening their public participation policies and institutional reforms, showing as the most improved indicator, and we have seen it from the average score. So it's a work in progress. All the counties are going up, and that is something good for our county. Now, we looked at 10, something we noted that 24 counties in public participation at 10, we didn't have any zero. And then, where were these zeros from? Governor, you talked about once the results are out, you put them on websites. But do you put them on website before you go and do public participation? That's why you see. So remember, we are coming up with citizens like Gen Z who will not go to listen to now. I know the ways in which you announce public participation is through radio, you put in notice board, okay? These findings showing us that as the younger generation, most of them are no longer interested. They want these things to be put in what? Website. So as a recommendation going forward, wherever you have a public participation that's supposed to happen in 3-4 weeks today, make sure you put it on website and you can market it in social media, etc. That can improve enhancement. And that's why these public participation notices on county websites was lacking. So we went to your websites and checked, and you can confirm here with us that you did not put, isn't it? Thank you very much. So public participation on websites, so it was a very low score. You can see only 20%. And some of the key performers, maybe this can be a best practice, is Mombasa, which we had 100%. We checked all of them they were putting. I'm very happy my county, I wish the governor was here, was also among the top performers. Funny enough, Governor, your neighbor did very well, which is West Pokot. So that is something that, and also transfer. So the key elements of how do you share this on website? So that's something that we looked at. Now, some of the key challenges we talked about here, but that's just a brief. Issues with financial constraints, citizen apathy, information barriers, elite capture, you talked about. I think some of this has talked about geographical barriers, capacity gaps, the counties that have not done their capacity. And maybe, Governor, you can help us this. At Kipria, we have got so many opportunities to come and probably teach your county of public policy making process. So you can talk with that, we're able to and give capacity to the MCAs, to your officials, so that when they go to do public participation for a policy, they do it perfectly. Okay? And that enhances the quality of the policy that you make at the county levels. Issue to do with trust deposit and etc. So we make some of the enhanced recommendations that we look at issues to do with strengthening implementation. this policy gap between bridge the gap between policy and actual practice. And you rightly put it, that's something that we should look at. Capacity building, as you rightly put it, we are very happy you signed an MOU with us, meaning that we are at your service at all the times. So you can able to do that and announce that to also your fellow colleagues, governors, for those who have not done it. Then there is also citizen empowerment. You can able to do that. Technology integration, very important in terms of public participation. You can always have in your website a place where the citizen can send a memoranda on an issue. Then you also get those ideas or incorporate, etc. Then there is what we call the regular monitoring and, of course, resource allocation. So that is my presentation. Thank you very much, and thank you for that, listening.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Odhiambo. Let's appreciate him again for the presentation as he takes the seat. Ladies and gentlemen, as we almost get into the panel discussion, but allow me to bring Boaz Munga to make a short presentation on status of social equity, inclusion, and justice. So, Boaz Munga.
Good evening. Allow me to say all protocols observed. Okay, I hope that is visible, but I'll try to stand here so that I don't block anyone. And this is on the status of social equity, inclusion, and justice. I remember there was an issue of definitions. I didn't have space to really put definitions here, but I just had space to put on the quick questions that we answer when you talk about social equity. And the key idea in social equity is fair access, of course, to services like education, healthcare, housing, and others, and addressing historical and structural disadvantages in society, and also coming to a level where we have outcome-oriented fairness and inclusive decision-making. And social inclusion, social equity, social justice, of course, address some concerns in society. The major questions I identified for each one of them respectively was for social inclusion, who is being left out? That's a key question we seek to answer. And how do we bring them in? For social equity, we are thinking mainly about what resources or support does each person need to have the same chance. So we want to give everybody equal opportunity. I give an example there of providing extra funding to schools in marginalized areas as an example. And for social justice, the key question we will be answering is the system itself fair and just? I must admit that I did not intend to answer all these questions. So I just, you will see where I have reached. But the other issue is, why should we care about these issues? Why should we care about social equity, social inclusion, and social justice? Of course, there are many reasons, but I captured just a few there. And one of them is we need to enhance social cohesion in our society. A society that does not have social equity or inclusion or even justice will have challenges and social conflicts. So all this will be related to having cohesion in society, or having a better society, a more sustainable society which has more inclusive economic growth. So I've gone back to the first question, which I asked. It was about equity. Who is being left out and how do we bring them in? And in this presentation, my intention was to focus on education, health, social protection, and the outcome of poverty and inequality. Because of time, I'll just probably say something on education. And for education, we can think of access, we can think of quality, and in the next slides, we have perhaps what we already know. From here, it looks quite not very legible. I hope you are able to see. These are basically counties, and here we have an access measure, gross enrollment rate. And what do we see? We see some disparities. We see wide gaps in GR. One of the comments I'd like to make is on very high levels of GR exceeding 100%, which is not necessarily a good thing. It's reflective of a challenge that I'll be able to mention. We normally look at the gross enrollment rate in close association with the net enrollment ratios when we measure access to education. The denominator for both is the same. We measure those who access that level of education. It could be primary or it could be pre-primary, but the right age. Then in the numerator, we put, for the gross, we put everyone, irrespective of their age. For the net, we remove everyone who is over age or under age. So what do we expect from the net? Just about 100% if every child of the right age is in school. But if not, we will get less than 100%. Across the counties, I think the main theme was lower access rates in our ASALs, perhaps lower access rates in some of our rural localities, but much higher performance in some counties. For instance, the central region counties will be featuring much more here. Nairobi will be found neither here nor there in some cases. So there's so much we can say about status, but that was not what I wanted to focus on so much. This is at primary level. The others were at the pre-primary level. We have some key observations from those charts and other charts that the pre-primary education gross enrollment rate has risen sharply. So is the net, but the net ER has remained more or less constant or unchanged. If you look at the time between 2018 and 2022, when we had some data. We can say so much about the rest, but we can also note that for the transition from primary to secondary, the rates remain inconsistent, and we see many pupils do not complete the full cycle of education. So we have a challenge of expanding access at the higher level, secondary education still. And we have also the challenge of ensuring that students enroll at the appropriate age. And this could start earlier at the pre-primary level. And we have seen, of course, the disparities. And what we think drives those disparities, I've listed a few there: poverty, insecurity, cultural norms, nomadic lifestyle in some of our northern countries, the ASALs, inadequate infrastructure. And then we are thinking that for this discussion, government policy will be important. And the government policy will be able to see it through the eye of what we call physical incidence analysis that we recently did. There are so many things we can say about quality of basic education across our regions, but let me just say we also see disparities. So is our education enhancing social mobility? Is it inclusive? We have looked at a few data sources, and this one is an old one, but I'll come to more recent ones. This old one is telling us that the poorest households have less access in terms of having ever attended school for those aged between 3 and 24. So the richer we are, the more access we have. That everyone will expect. It's not new, but it reflects badly on our society. We should have a society where inclusiveness means even that person who is has the lowest income has relatively high access. I'll want to say that all this would say basically the same things, but across the counties. And for this one, we have the poorest, the blue bars, the lower income, the black dots. So again, the black dots above mean the richer. Across the counties have better access to education. Let me just go to from the old to the new. But in all these status, we were interested in one thing. What is the impact of government interventions on all that? What is the distributional effects of the fiscal measures, say, on education? So we did what we call the Kenya Fiscal Incidence Analysis. And in this, let me say, we use what we call the Commitment to Equity Assessment Framework. And this framework allows us to answer the question, if government, for instance, has transfers made to education, like the capitation grants, how does it affect outcomes in terms of less or more equal access to education? That is what we are trying to answer. So this slide gives us what we were able to find out in pre-primary, primary, and across tertiary education. The red dots, or the red line, is telling us about the distribution of income from the lowest income earners to the highest in terms of shares. So the decile number 1 are the lowest income earners. They have a relatively low share of overall income. If you can estimate there, it's perhaps even much less than 5%, but the highest income group has more than 30%. So that income distribution remains the same across all the 4. In terms of equity, in terms of inclusion, we would expect, when it comes to the levels of education that we have, that the in-kind, what we call in-kind transfers to education, should be such that the poor or the lowest income benefit much more than the high income. What these graphs actually show is that for pre-primary, primary, the blue bars are higher than the income levels of those low income groups. But for the very high income groups, for 8, 9, and 10 deciles, the red, that means the incomes are much more above than the benefits they get from the transfers from education. So we'll say that education at pre-primary and primary, and to some extent secondary, is progressive. So we are able to benefit the poor. But for tertiary, we are seeing something perhaps that is different. We are not able to transfer the benefits to the what? To the poor when it comes to tertiary. So for tertiary, we still have perhaps, as you can see, apart from 8, decile 8, which is a relatively rich income group, whose income is above. The rest, like 9, for instance, who have quite high income groups, seem to benefit much more than, say, the poorest income groups from tertiary education. I think that is a message that we found in terms of this distribution. And I put it here to suggest that the outcome we see for tertiary education doesn't start at that level. It began with that missed opportunity at the pre-primary level in terms of access, in terms of delays, and in terms of transition. So we also see it in secondary education, that the access rates for good quality secondary education is skewed towards the higher income groups. So they benefit much more from public expenditure in tertiary education. I think that is how we are able to interpret those findings. So what we are saying that could be relevant to counties, that the pre-primary level, when we don't invest as much in it, it will finally reflect in the benefits at the higher levels. And it will reflect in terms of late entry, and then we'll have inefficiencies in the education. So we are saying we need to improve in-kind targeting, reduce universal subsidies. Very easy to say, difficult to implement. When you want to have benefits to the poor, less to the rich, like we tried with the recent education reforms on, you remember the issue of giving more subsidies to the poor based on the banding. That's the principle, reduce universal subsidies, but very difficult to implement. We think expanding reform bursaries, expanding loans, addressing structural barriers. That means our schools that are under-resourced must be resourced properly, even at the lower levels, for us to achieve the outcomes that we may want.
Pamela Awori, and I am CEC Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Busia County. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ondari Cyrus Nyansera. I'm privileged to serve the county government of Kakamega as the Director Economic Planning and Investments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for turning up. And I think, I hope, Cyrus, you have your mic. I'll start by asking you the first question. And we note from a report by Transparency International that 83% of Kenyans do not know the resources assigned to their county. 77% are aware of their county's fiscal strategy paper, and only 16% are aware of the county integrated development plan. Now, I would like you to tell us what tools or channels do you use in Kakamega to communicate fiscal information in ways that encourage wider citizen participation?
Thank you very much. I note from the report that most citizens are aware of the budget more than they're aware of the documents that develop the budget. For example, if you look at the awareness on the budget at 41%, still indicates that they are more aware than the county integrated development plan at 16%. But still not good enough, because 59% are not aware of the budget. Yes, a critical document. At the same time, a whopping 84% are not aware of the county integrated development plan, which now generates the budget. The main challenge is that we need to ask ourselves, why is that happening? In Kakamega, we do it differently because in most cases, the level of civic engagement is relatively higher to ensure that we don't do public participation as a compliance issue, but as a focus on meaningful public participation. As we do this, we ensure that Kakamega is relatively vast, with a total of 12 sub-counties, 60 wards, 187 village administrative units, and 400 community areas is relatively advanced and vast. So to do that, we engage the public by ensuring that we provide information that can enable them to effectively participate in our public participation. In addition to that, we publish our documents on the website in advance for them to derive the information that they can use to engage us objectively. At the same time, we also integrate technology in our public participation by ensuring that we allow participants who are not able to attend physically to participate by developing a public participation portal. If you go to the County Government of Kakamega website, www.civickakamega.go.ke, you'll be able to find an online public participation platform where citizens can be able to engage. At the same time, we ensure that we integrate and include all of them by ensuring that we bring aspects of sign language interpretation and translating our documents to languages which they can be able to effectively respond to. I believe in so doing, we significantly ensure that we raise the bar as far as public participation is concerned. Thank you.
Okay, I'll move to Waziri. Section 207 of the Public Finance Management Act requires counties to develop inclusive, open, and non-discriminatory participation mechanisms. How has capacity building for county staff and community representatives helped strengthen the quality and inclusivity of public participation in Busia?
Thank you. As a county, I would want to indicate what the county has done in ensuring inclusivity in the public participation process. We have ensured that the accessibility of this information for all to participate, especially persons with disability. Whenever we prepare these public participation exercises, we try to bring them to places or venues that are accessible within the municipality halls where persons with disability can access. We have also incorporated the use of sign language because there are those who are not enabled to hear, and so the engagement of persons with disability and the use of sign language during these processes has helped ensure that they are all brought on board. Partnerships with the CSOs and the civil society agencies has really worked for us because on matters gender, working with the civil society organizations that focus on mainstreaming gender issues have really worked for us. Mentorship programs that the partnership helps us achieve brings on board children issues, women, and the youth. Those are avenues that have ensured that marginalized and persons with disability are always brought on board during public participation. The use of technology has also helped because, like you have talked about, publishing this on the websites. There are people who may not come to the physical public participation occasions or events, but can access this information online, can also give their input, and can also participate in these whole processes. We have tried to go that way to bring everybody on board. And maybe I just need to add, we have ensured that on occasions, these public participations are done during days when people are accessible. And the venues, like I've talked about, areas that are accessible at market areas, when they are also able to access these events and take part. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Waziri. I'll move to Hannah. We know that Oxfam promotes locally led development and community-driven decision-making, including especially in the extractive sector. What methods have been most successful in ensuring that marginalized communities influence policies and services that affect them?
Thank you, Dr. Moi. Before I make my submissions, I want to briefly say what Oxfam does, for those that don't know. So Oxfam started working in Kenya in 1963, but much of the work it's been known for is humanitarian work, or rather responding to floods and emergencies. But over the years, the need to focus on development issues, and that includes accountable governance, issue of gender rights and women issues, and also natural resources. And it's the pillar that I'm going to speak to. The PS boldly told us to be candid about the conversations we are having today. And I'm here to be bold and candid. Following Dr. Onsomo's presentation, the mining sector is the least inclusive sector in our country. Or rather, let me say extractives. I'm giving a preamble so that I make my submission. And here we are looking at oil, gas, and mining. And Governor, we have a beautiful ruby from Baringo that we cannot account for in our GDP or our metrics. There are other industrial minerals that the government has gazetted as strategic minerals, and yet we don't have a hold on it. Number two, because historically, it is or still remains a male-dominated sector, you find the exclusion of women in the sector. And I'll tell you how they're excluded. You call for public participation in a mining community at 9 a.m., nobody will show up as a woman. Why? She has domestic care work to take care of. Number two, she has to go to the mine site. And she does that Monday to Saturday. Sunday, she's with the family. So when I'm seated here and there's a lot of saying we do public participation and accessibility, our experience for mining communities across the country, in many mining communities, is that they are unable to effectively engage in public participation. And so that is a gap already. So when you put nice posters and say 9 a.m., believe me, you will miss out on the women that can attend, and especially from the sector that we work in extractives. So what is working? Because I think that was the question, or what approaches have we made? One of the things is that Oxfam does not implement, but does it through local partners. And I've had some of you allude to working with civil society organizations. We realized that groups, that it needs to end, lack of a better word, activism. Because there's a way government works. If you want anything to be passed or to influence any policy. So even sitting down with communities to let them know this is how memorandums are written, this is how you engage government. Government, you have to write a letter, have a letter stamped, then you can follow up. It's as basic as that. And I don't know how many of you know that, I don't know, ED, if the curriculum is still there, Kipra developed a curriculum on how government works that was supposed to be implemented in counties. I don't know if that is being channeled, because it's an intricate way of understanding public participation. When they put it, it has a timeline for which I should set my memorandum. And then after that, what happens for follow-up? So for us, building capacity of grassroots organizations has been a key approach to that. Thank you.
Okay. So we have had the need to build capacity of community-based organizations. And my next question is to our colleague from Makueni. Now we know that the goal of public participation is to foster citizen-state interaction in decision-making, increase public involvement, and strengthen the link between citizens and government institutions in resource planning and budgeting. What elements of Makueni's model have been most instrumental in building and sustaining high citizen trust in governance processes?
Thank you. Before I respond, allow me to acknowledge His Excellency, the Governor of Baringo. When the issue of education was being discussed here, I remembered when I was in the university, he's the man who made me go through the university education. I don't take it for granted. Yes. As I said, my name is Nicholas Nzioka, the County Executive Committee member in charge of devolution, public participation, county administration, and special programs, the great county of Makueni. The existence of a legal framework on public participation in Makueni has been the driving force. We have established an operational PP structures, right from the cluster to the ward, because we use the ward as the development unit. Now, we have project management committees. You cannot do any project in Makueni without a PMC. We have project sustainability committees. After the project is done and handed over to the government by the contractor or otherwise, now the sustainability committee takes over. In the various sectors, we have the sectoral committees. We have market committees. We have the CDDCs for agriculture. But most recently, as a department, we conducted very free, fair, and transparent elections of the Community Development Committee members, who are the driving force in matters development. When you look at all that, when you talk about inclusivity, those Community Development committees constitute every person. We have the youth, we have the women, we have the PWDs represented, and we have everybody on board. So we leave nobody behind in Makueni.
Thank you.
Again, let me continue. We still have a directorate that handles public participation and citizen engagement in Makueni. That directorate is headed by a very competent person. We have a very informed society, matters their roles when it comes to matters budgeting and planning. But most importantly, the political goodwill, the ability to have a grievance redress and feedback mechanism in Makueni has glued the public and the government together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I go back to Cyrus. How is Kakamega working to maintain public trust and interest in participation processes?
Thank you very much. Public trust is not just given, it's an issue that you develop over time. And sometimes you can develop over a very long time, but lose it within a very short period of time. In Kakamega, we have done so much to ensure that we not only maintain the public trust, but also sustain the same. His Excellency, the Governor of Kakamega County, FCPA Fernandez Baraza, has made it mandatory to all the CEC members and the chief officers to always respond to issues raised by public by engaging in media responses. Every time there is an issue that's rising up, then it's the responsibility of the respective CEC member or the chief officer to go to a media, either the local or national media, and respond to an issue publicly so that everybody will be able to get the information and move away from sometimes which might appear like rumors. In the same time, it is mandatory for us to develop, publish, and publicize all our information, especially information relating to budget and planning. In so doing, then it enables the public to get right-hand information without necessarily even coming to the offices. They can download our documents and ensure that they can read for those who will be able to access and do that for that matter. Thirdly, whenever we carry out our public participation, I said initially, we don't do a compliance public participation. We do meaningful public participation and engagement, objectively across all our 60 ward administrative units. In so doing, we try as much as we can to provide the public with the necessary information so that they can be able to engage with us at different aspects and get the information that the government is doing across all the entities. Recently, the county government of Kakamega has been able to establish a call center which is going to respond real time to issues which emanate from the public at any particular time. And to roll out and implement that initiative, now the county government has come up with a framework which ensures that every department, every ministry has a representative in the call center. In this case, if an issue arises, let's say in agriculture, respective subsector, let's say fisheries, there is the director of fisheries who has the phone number is there, the email is there, where a question will be posed to this directly, either to him, the chief officer, or the CC member, who will be able to respond objectively and technically to ensure that there is public trust and the information is flowing at all times. At the same time, His Excellency the Governor himself is available for consultation to the public at least one day in a week, whereby he operates an open door policy for the members of the public to engage him objectively, where he can be able to respond to their issues and give directives to the respective departments to respond to issues that may be related to them. I believe many other publications relating to engagements in public are published, whereby we can be able to do timely and ensure that whatever that the public has can be verified at all times. Thank you so much.
Okay, asante, Waziri. The next question is on creating safe spaces for women, youth, PWDs. What are some of the practical approaches that you have used?
Thank you. In the effort to create safe spaces for PWDs to also take part in the public participation, what we have done, and there's still room to even do better, we have worked with smaller groups, because most of them, you will not find a big group. But whatever small group you find of persons with disability, you will create space for them to also give their input on what they think about the programs and the projects that are going on in the county that they need to participate. Follow-up processes have also been very useful, because once a public participation event or an occasion has been created, it's good to find out, did these people take part? And through the administrators, this has worked. They will, because most of these teams are very vocal. Some are always outstanding. And when they miss, there's always an opportunity to find out. This group did not take part. Is there an issue? Did they know? Did they get the information on good time? That has helped. Through our monitoring and evaluation reports, this also creates an avenue for us to know when departments or project reports are being done on M&E and follow-ups. Then you're able to know this is an area that was of priority for these teams but has not been captured. Are we able to find out through the administrators, of course, again, because they go to the grassroots, and this really helps. And a lot more is in the waiting to make sure that we incorporate all these teams. Okay.
Asante. We'll move to the extractive sector, and Hannah will tell us how public participation has helped to address historical inequalities and promote justice for affected communities.
Thank you, Daktari. Allow me to respond with a recent example, especially in the mining sector. So Kenya had a 1940-year law on mining, and it's only after 76 years that we had a Mining Act in 2016. And prior to that, royalties were seldom shared to communities. And so the current Mining Act tells us that 70% of all royalties from mining companies go to National Treasury. 20% goes to the county government. 10% goes to the community. When you cumulatively look at this amount of money, because it has not been paid since 2016, it is 7 billion Kenya shillings. Has never been disbursed. Reason being, there was no framework for disbursement. Only recently, the government made a decision that while Treasury kept the 70%, The 20% to counties would go through the consolidated fund, and it is an allocated fund. Counties can do whatever it wants to do with it. And I'll give you an example. Kwale County, because of base titanium operations, received 1.1 billion in royalties. To date, the 10% is yet to be given to communities, because the question is, who are you giving this money? So the communities in Kajiado County, Magadi Soda, in Kwale County because of base titanium, in Taita Taveta because of the mining operations in that area, have said to government, why don't we already use the existing framework of the Community Development Agreement, which is there in the law? And what does the CDA require? That 1% of all gross sales of the mining company should go to the community. For the last 2 years, the Kwale community, because of base titanium, has been receiving 240 million per year. 1%. They have not received their 10% yet because there is no framework. What am I saying? I am saying that if we are going to reduce inequality, the legal framework is already there. It is us as a country that are yet to put structures in place to ensure that those injustices are not exacerbated as we go on. Thank you.
Okay. My last question to our colleague from Makueni. How is citizen satisfaction being translated into measurable service delivery gains in areas such as water, health, agriculture, and so forth?
Makueni is classified as one of the ASAL areas. And the primary objective was to get universal access to water. We had people going several kilometers, as many as 6, 5. But through last mile connectivity, we are aiming at bringing that proximity to less than 2 kilometers. And we are working on it. Reticulation is a story now going forward. We have water masses in Makueni, and we have invested heavily in water. So we expect the issues of water in Makueni in the next 1, 2, 3 years to be at the best that the county has ever enjoyed. And that's why when you talk about devolution, the story resonates well with the people of Makueni. We are actually a symbol of what we call epitome of hope through devolution as a county. Matters health. Through the public, we've talked about automation. We have been able to prioritize drugs based on the needs in a particular facility because we have automated our healthcare system. And now, recently, the people of Makueni came up with Mutula Care. That is going to complement SHA. That's an enhancement of SHA, meaning we are going to have the people of Makueni access healthcare even outside Makueni. And that's the story there. Matters agriculture, you can look at Makueni as having been mapped in order of value chains. Mangoes, beekeeping, poultry keeping, and green grams. Now, through this mapping, we've had ward circles, farmer producer organizations, and that has brought in new ideas. We have now code rooms that are functional. We have had the last season of mangoes. We had those pack houses, and we expect the next season, the code rooms are going to be in use for the people of Makueni to make maximum use. And then we have the ward circles that are as a result of these farmer producer organizations and these ward circles. We have 30 wards in Makueni. We have 30 ward circles in Makueni.
Okay, thank you. I think that was my last question. And I think I'll need direction from the overall moderator, because I know there's a plenary, whether we'll remain here as questions come or we we move from our seats.
I think, Dr. we can take maybe 2 or 3 questions because of time. You need to remain there so that we take 3 or 4 questions. So I want to request members, in case you have a question from the presentation that was done before by our colleagues and maybe from the discussion going on here. Let me see you by show of hand, and then you're going to give you opportunity. I can take 3 questions. I can have someone lobbing the mic. There's a hand there. Someone to assist me. Where Kipra stuff? To loam the mic, there's a hand there. Can you introduce yourself?
Thank you. My name is Fatuma from Kipra. I'm a Kipra board member. My question is for the panel, of course, for not only Oxfam, definitely also the county government. I want to ask a question on targeting, because we are talking about inclusion, justice in implementation. So targeting for communities that are really hard to access. They are hard to access because of insecurity, like in the case of Baringo. They're hard to access because of infrastructure. There are no roads. They are hard to access because they are pastoralists and they can never be found at one point. There must be justice for them to get interventions. They must be included. So what frameworks do we use to get these people on board so that we are seen either as a county or as an implementing partner that we are doing inclusion? My second one is, again, how on research, it's related to the first one, how do we get contextual evidence on a people that we can never reach? Yeah? We need a policy dialogue. We need to develop policies that actually contextualize to their needs. Some that will also be able to make us reach them. So as much as we are not able to reach them, how are we trying them to be on board in public participation to have a policy dialogue? Yeah? And that is why in all these communities, and they are spread all over Kenya, you will not find sometimes organizations, I'm not saying Oxfam, but implementing partners are only selecting certain regions that are friendly to go. Yeah? Probably in Makueni, they will reach only the areas they think it's cheaper for them. So in this case, because it's happening all over the country, you will find implementing partners concentrated in very easy areas to reach. So how government as a coordinator, because the government is the king of the coordination and oversight. And I know sometimes there might not be capacity, especially funding. Is there any coordination framework within the county government that links us to the national level? I was in a youth dialogue about 2 weeks ago, and some of the concerns were their donors and youth are being trained, probably from Nyanza, they are trained on beehives and honey harvesting. Yeah? Some from Northeastern sometimes are taught things that should have been taught in other counties. You see how the targeting is happening. So is there any coordination framework? Because the bigger donor that is giving the money deals with the national government, but the implementing partner is at the county. So what is the link between the national government and the county? Are there coordination frameworks that control that? Thank you, Dr. Karanja.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I can't see another hand. Maybe moderator, the team can take that question for the interest of time because it cuts across many areas.
Okay, maybe whoever is ready to respond. I think there were 3 questions.
Thank you, Director Fatma. Very key questions, and I'll start with the last one. And specifically for extractive sector, mining and petroleum is not a devolved function. And so already there's a challenge, okay? But recently, the 4th schedule did pronounce itself on what are the issues that county should take care of. But sometimes there's a lot of issues around coordination. And it is an area I'd want to hear an answer as well. Because, for instance, if we're implementing a project in Turkana and there's insecurity, the regional, the coordinator there for security will tell us, don't come to Lodwar. Then we'll stop implementing a project based on that. So it's still an issue we grapple with. So I don't have an answer. But targeting, there is an effort now, especially with the localization agenda for civil society, to co-create programs with communities. It cannot be a top-down approach. And that is what major donors are asking. Did you co-create programs with people on the ground? Is that what they needed? So I think there is a framework being developed for co-creation and co-ideation of programs for that purpose. Research, Oxfam has recently gone into an MOU with KIPRA to ensure that there's evidence-based work that we are doing for policy and advocacy. Thank you.
Okay. I also want to add an input to your last question. And I believe we carry out public participation for so many reasons. Part of the reasons why we carry out public participation is to collaborate with the people, to involve them, to consult them, and to ensure that they participate in the development framework. So sometimes you get feedback and there is reason to implement and incorporate the feedback during implementation. And it makes sense when the public is able to see that their input has been objectively incorporated into the planning or budgeting framework. So for us in Kakamega, I'll say that in terms of targeting, we have developed a matrix whereby we map out all development partners participating in the framework within our county. And we realize most of them prefer implementing their projects or programs within the central region, which involves Lurambi, Shinyalu, Navaholo, Malava, and the southern region, which involves Mumias West, Matungu, Butere, Wisero, and Mumias East. But the northern region, which is far flank, that is in Ilikuyani and Lugari, sometimes is left out. So whenever partners come in to implement their projects, we identify wards where we don't have a partner, for example, implementing a project in education, a project in agriculture, a project in socio-economic empowerment. Then we tell them, if you want to implement here in the central and southern region, this one is already covered. Now you must target the areas that have not been covered in order to ensure there is inclusion and participation in development across all the county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think for the sake of time, maybe just very, very brief.
Just to comment on those very hard to find communities. Yes, but put it closer. Okay. I come from a county that experiences a lot of flooding, and I know that you have heard about Budalangi. And there are communities within the lake that are very hard to access, especially during the flooding season. how do we take care of these people? Because they also are part of the county and need to be part of the decision making. We have had to even buy a special boat for people to reach them. Although there are times that you cannot even cross, because when River Nzoia enters the lake, the floods are so heavy, the waves are so heavy, and these people are on an island in the lake. We have the same people on some island called Sigulu Island, and they are Busia people. You have to reach them. So what happens is pick out their heads or the community heads and train them to be able to go and train the communities on what they need to do during this public participation. Policies have also been able to incorporate them, and like the disaster policy we have just launched the other day as a county. You talk about where you have to work with the national government. Disaster is a matter of the county and the national government. We have had to use the avenues that are possible, whether it's through the national government. It may not be a security issue in our case, but it's life-threatening, because then nobody is willing to cross over during those flooding seasons. But when it is cool season, then we incorporate them in all our capacity building sessions so that they are part and parcel of the processes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You'll agree with me that the panel is quite knowledgeable in this area, and they have shared their all. But for the sake of time, I would like to close our panel at this point. And I will request you to join me to applaud my panel as we take our seats. Thank you so much. And I hand the mic back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moi and the panelists. We want to appreciate the contribution on this great subject. And at this time, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end of our side event. And I want to invite Kipra Board Vice Chair, Ms. Ojara, to come and cross the side event. Let's appreciate our Vice Chair. Just clap for her as she comes. Yeah, you can appreciate her as she comes to cross the workshop for us. Thank you very much.
I am Christine Wanjala, and to His Excellency Governor Benjamin Cheboy in absentia, our Principal Secretary, Dr. Boniface Makoha, also in absentia, our KIPRA Board Chairperson, Professor Paul Wachana, KNBS Director General, Dr. McDonald Obudo, our partners, representatives from various ministries, counties, distinguished guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Before I say anything, I would like to, as requested by our chair, to just introduce one of our directors who was away when we were being introduced. Maybe she can just stand up. Yes, she's Director Fatuma Hussein. Thank you, Director. Yes, so allow me to express my appreciation to all of you for joining us today and contributing to the success of this side event. We have had a day filled with insightful presentations, engaging discussions, and valuable networking opportunities. To our chief guest, His Excellency Benjamin Cheboy, Governor of Baringo County, in absentia, thank you for gracing this event and sharing invaluable insights from the county's leadership perspective. Your reflections have shown how devolution brings the aspirations of our constitution closer to the people and thus champions social equity, inclusion, and justice through public participation. We also extend gratitude to our Principal Secretary, State Department for Economic Planning, Dr. Boniface Makoha, also in absentia. Your participation reaffirms the government's recognition of public participation as a cornerstone of good governance. Your leadership in steering economic planning and policy implementation is instrumental in ensuring that citizens' voices are integrated into decision-making processes that shape equitable development across our country. Our appreciation equally goes to Mr. MacDonald Obudo, the Director General, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, for honoring our invitation and contributing to the success of this event. Your leadership is ensuring the availability of credible data, empowers evidence-based decision-making across counties and the national government in addressing inequalities and promoting inclusive growth. To all our partners, including United Nations agencies, Oxfam, among others, we deeply appreciate your unwavering contribution and tireless efforts in fighting poverty and ending injustice. By empowering marginalized communities to actively participate in governance and decision-making through advocacy, civic education, and partnerships with local institutions, you promote policies that reduce inequalities and protect human rights. To our panelists who just left the stage and participants, your active engagement and thoughtful contributions have made this event a success. Your voices are crucial in shaping policies that truly reflect the need and aspiration of Kenyan people. The ideas shared here will contribute to KIPRA's ongoing research work and policy recommendations on strengthening public participation frameworks in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, today's deliberations have showcased the importance of public participation as a cornerstone of inclusive governance. It is clear that empowering citizens to actively engage in decision-making processes strengthens the legitimacy and sustainability of policies both at the county and national level. At KIPRA, we remain committed to advancing this agenda through policy analysis, evidence-based research, capacity building, and policy dialogue. Moving forward, we will work to finalize our collaborative MOUs, expand the Youth Professionals Program to strengthen county-level technical capacity and develop revenue forecasting models that will enhance counties' planning and service delivery. Let us commit to translating the insights gained today into concrete actions that will enhance citizen engagement in public processes. The journey towards more inclusive governance requires sustained effort from all of us. On behalf of the KIPRA board, management, and staff, I thank you all for your time and unwavering commitment to upholding our Constitution 2010. Together, we shall continue building a nation where every citizen's voice matters in shaping our collective, prosperous, and inclusive future. And to end, I just want to wish all of you a good time, good evening, and enjoy this beautiful county of Homa Bay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our Vice Chair. We appreciate you. I want all of us to stand so that we can share the words of grace. But before I share the words of grace, I want to acknowledge the Director General for Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, Dr. MacDonald Obudo, just wait for us. Let's appreciate him. He just stepped in as we are crossing the workshop. Just appreciate him. We can clap for him. He has joined us as we were closing up the workshop. And now let's share the words of grace. Now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen. Amen. God bless you. Good evening. Thank you.